Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to part 2 of today's show. It's now time for our top tips segment. So what have you got for us this week?
Well, today's top tip is that, obviously it's the month of Ramadan. And, we try to read the Quran, the whole Quran in the month of Ramadan. Yeah. So I've come across a website. Actually, it was a viewer that emailed in at morning break and actually suggested this website. It's called quranflash.com. I'm sure there are other people that maybe have heard of this website. And basically, it's the Quran virtually on the internet, and you can use it as a book in real life. So, like, you can flip the pages of it as though you were flipping it yourself. You were turning the pages yourself. And it has different text versions. So you can have the Urdu translation, you've got the English, you've got, different text styles as well. So, for example, if you're used to a certain text style, so you can always change the type of book that you're reading from. Okay. But also I thought it was handy, especially if we're at work. And sometimes it's difficult for you to carry the Quran in your bag. And then, of course, in front of your work colleagues to take it out, for example, if you work in a non-Muslim organisation, to kind of take it out and at the desk, maybe your lunch hour. Because in your lunch hour, you're not going to be eating.
True.
So you could use that time to read the Quran, and you could, if you're not comfortable taking the actual Quran with you at work and sitting at your desk, you could log on to quranflash.com, onto this website, and you could, read the Quran on your, monitor, so to speak, and no one would really know what you're doing, or, it would just be seen that you're surfing the internet, if you get what I'm saying, and that way you could sort of say to yourself, I'm going to read this many ayahs or this many surahs, or even Sapara, if you could, every day. So I thought that was a really nice tip for people that, might like to, read the Quran regularly every day.
Absolutely, I think that's really useful, and especially like you said in this month where, I don't know about you, but I always find that I might allocate a certain amount of time in my day to read Quran, but I still don't seem to get through enough that I've actually planned for that day, so I fall behind. And as inshallah, everyone will try and complete the whole Quran this month. But if you can't, that's a really good way of catching up, isn't it? When you have time at work, and like you said, no one's going to be eating, so it's a great chance to catch up. I think that issue of having the Quran, for example, on the internet or on your phone, etc., is an interesting one, because it's really handy and it's great for us all to be able to access it so easily. But I think it's also important for us to look into the issues regarding things like having wudu, or where exactly we can take that Quran in the first place. Because, from one point of view, you could say that it's just a part of your phone and it's not necessarily open, and you wouldn't actually be touching it with your hand, because you might be, for example, using a rollerball or something. But on the other hand, it's still like such a holy thing to have on your phone. So how do you treat it? But, I mean, I don't know what you think about that.
I personally think that, it's handy, obviously, to have the Quran on your phone, and but I think, the screen is there, isn't it? So and also, it's not the actual written Quran that you're touching. It's a virtual Quran, isn't it?
Yeah.
And also you do have the screen there, so you're not actually touching the letters. Obviously, it's best if you are in wudu, but not everybody will be in wudu all the time. And so, I don't personally, know. But I think all I know is it's definitely handy to have. And if people do have smartphones out there and they do have the Quran on there, then great. That's even more bigger bonus, because when you're on the train, then you can read the Quran, etc.
Definitely. Okay, so it's now time for us to go to our resident nutritionist, Sister Masuma, with a nutrition kitchen.
Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the Nutrition Kitchen on Morning Break. I'm Masma. Today we're joined by Sister Fatima, who'll be making us a Thai prawn and mango curry. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Fatima.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Right, so what are we using today?
Okay, today we're going to be making a Thai prawn and mango curry, and we're also going to be doing some coconut rice on the side to go with it.
Yummy. Okay, let's get started.
Okay, so first of all, we're going to actually start with the rice, because that's obviously going to be cooking whilst we are preparing our curry. So obviously your rice, make sure you give it a really good wash before you put it in, because sometimes you get bits and dust and all sorts in. Okay, so first of all, we're going to put some butter into the pan and just melt that.
Okay, so let's put
Okay, so just leave that to melt a little
You're just
bit.
putting like literally how much?
I would say it's about half a tablespoon to a tablespoon, and the reason I'm doing that is because that actually makes the rice grains separate, so you don't get that really gloopy, sticky rice, which sometimes happens.
Okay.
So I'm just going to wait for that to
Melt.
melt, and then obviously I'm going to add my rice in.
Are you just using normal what
This
type of rice?
is just normal basmati rice, which most people have at home.
So now usually this is a different way of doing it because usually you boil it in water. Or fry it
Yeah,
with it.
well, I find that this rice, basically what happens, it actually tends to steam more,
Right.
so the grains separate, and it gives you this really yummy rice, which is not all sort of stuck together and gloopy. So I'm just giving that a stir, and as you can see, the butter's melting, and that's going to make your rice go all sort of shiny, really, so it's not going to stick together. And also, obviously, I'm going to add some salt to my rice.
Okay.
So obviously to taste, so if you like a lot of salt then.
And if you've got high blood pressure and you don't want to use salt, you can leave it out, or you can use a bit of sea salt.
Okay, so
Okay.
I've used a cup of rice in there, and that's probably do about 3 or 4 people, obviously depending on how much rice you'd like to have.
Okay.
So once I've done that, I'm going to add 1 full cup of water. So I'm going to put that in. And then just to give it that really nice, delicious taste, I've got half a cup of coconut milk here.
Right.
In Thailand, they're really big on coconuts, so I'm just going to add that in
I
there.
know some people may get scared when they hear coconut about the fat content, but really it's an antifungal, antibacterial, it's quite nutritious. So, you know, for a Thai curry, you'd need to add in a bit of the coconut milk.
So I'm just going to give that a really good stir,
Okay, yeah.
like that. And as you can see, it's all sort of blending in together. And I'm going to now wait for that to come up to the boil.
You can see that it's just covered with, it's just a layer of rice there with milk and the butter mixing in together. And do we cover that and just leave it?
Yeah, what we want, if we just turn it up quite high and
Okay.
you want to bring it up, it should be bubbling and boiling, and then obviously you'll lower it down. So whilst that's doing that,
Okay.
I'm now going to start on my prawn and mango curry.
Okay.
Okay, so first of all, what I've done here is I've taken some onion, chilli and garlic. So I've used, I think that's probably a whole onion, small onion,
Okay.
1 chilli, obviously to taste, probably about a tablespoon of ginger.
Okay.
Fresh is usually better. And I've used 3 cloves of garlic because I like garlic. And what I've done is I've basically just pureed that all together.
Right.
So that you don't get any bits in your curry, it will just sort of melt away really. So I've got my butter in my pan here, so I'm just going to add that.
Smells great.
Yeah, fresh. I know some people like to use the garlic and the ginger from a
tin.
jar, but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just not the same.
So where did you actually learn this recipe from?
This is something I've seen when I travelled to Thailand before, when I was younger.
Okay.
They're really big on fresh ingredients, and there is actually a hadith from the Prophet, peace be upon him and his family, that says we should seek knowledge as far as China.
Correct, yeah.
This isn't China, but it is Thailand, so it's not too far. So that's just cooking up really nicely. So I'm going to wait for that to cook up.
Okay.
And as you can see, our rice is coming up to a boil
And
now.
that's really cooking in the butter and infusing with the butter, so that looks really nice. It actually looks much better than the ones you get in the jar.
That's right. Well, the ones in the jars have got preservatives in as well, so why give
Why
yourself
use that?
extra preservatives?
True.
So as you can see, our rice is cooking up, so
Okay.
I'm just going to give it another stir, just to make sure that all the grains are not stuck together. And a tight fitting lid just on the top. And I'm going to cook that now
Okay.
for about 12 minutes.
Right.
I know that probably seems under time, but you'll see why when I come to...
We'll just leave that alone.
We're just going to leave that alone, yeah. Okay, so this is sort of browning up now. And now I'm going to add my spices.
Right, now what spices have we used here?
Okay, what we've got here is we've got some ground coriander, turmeric, ground cumin, some fresh black pepper, and some rock salt there. I prefer rock salt because it gives it a nicer taste than the normal regular salt. So obviously we're going to add this to the pan. And I was taught... I can just see that's just blending in with them. I was taught that always fry your spices. That's the secret to a really good curry. So we're just going to really fry that up.
Okay. The aroma from there is amazing.
Yeah,
nice.
It's very aromatic, I think, is the word. So I'm just going to leave that to fry up slightly.
And obviously, if we look at the health, it's quite healthy. You're using prawns, which is high in protein and zinc. And don't forget, garlic and ginger are fantastic antifungal, antibacterial, ingredients to be using in your cooking.
Okay, so as you can see, it's really sort of cooked up now. And now what I'm going to do, now I'm going to add to my spices some fresh mango.
Oh, lovely. Now, normally, we wouldn't use mango in a curry.
Yeah, this is really, really delicious. As I said, in Thailand, they use all fresh ingredients. Okay. This is going to dissolve and give it a really nice, sweet taste.
And remember, mango is it's really plentiful in iron, and it's got a lot of, it's got serotonin in it. So it's a happy fruit.
So, just giving that a really good mix. And as the curry cooks, with the mango, I would recommend get the ripest mango you can get, when they're really squidgy. Yes. And then you just put them in because that's just gonna melt down. Okay, so I've let that cook down a little bit and I've just begun to mush the mango pieces so that it goes to like a puree. As you can see. And just keep stirring it, try not to let it catch so that it burns. Okay.
That mixture of flavours is quite nice with the prawns.
Yeah, the prawns have quite a delicate taste to them as well, so it goes quite well, I think. And now, as you can see, that's cooked. It's sort of gone brown, and the mangoes begin to break down. So now I'm going to add my
prawns.
My prawns. These are raw tiger prawns. I wouldn't recommend you use packet prawns that are already cooked because they will go really, really tough. Okay. So do try and get the raw prawns. And obviously I picked the really large ones because it gives it a little bit of bite, which normally you'd obviously get with meat, but we're not using meat.
High in protein, low in calories. Say if someone doesn't really like prawns, could they use an alternative?
Chicken. Okay. Chicken would be perfect for this. Obviously chicken breast, because it's a quick dish, so you're only cooking it for 10 or 15 minutes. So I would say chicken breast for this in sort of small pieces would be perfect. Okay. So just give that all a mix. And as you can see, my prawns, they've gone from being blue to pink. So they don't need too long to cook. So I'm just going to keep that moving round. Okay, so my prawns are nearly cooked now. You can see that most of them have turned pink. And what you can actually add at this moment is a pinch of desiccated coconut. Okay. Because in Thailand, people really do love coconut, not just for sweet dishes, but also in savoury dishes too. And that will obviously go with the mango.
And I've noticed that you've got a fresh coconut there.
I have got a fresh coconut. Like I said, in Thailand, they use fresh ingredients. And what happens is, I don't know if you can see, at the top of a coconut, it's actually got 3 eyes. Okay. Now, one of them, if you crack through it, actually, you go inside the coconut. The other 2 are sort of false ones. So in Thailand, the children play a game to see who can get the right hole to get the coconut water out. Okay. If you was to use fresh coconut, you can either grate it and add it, or you can use the coconut water in your rice and obviously just take away some of the water that you would use, and it gives a really, really nice, delicate flavour. So I've used that one before myself.
A lot of minerals and nutrients from coconut water. It's extremely nutritious.
Okay, so my prawns are done. They're all covered. And now I've got a small cup of coconut milk. Lovely. You can have this as a dry curry, that's fine. Personally, I prefer it to be a little bit more, I like sauce basically, so I'm just going to add that in. Like that. And again, just give it a mix round. Mix it all in really. you can really smell the coconut. So I'm going to give that a really good mix. And
it's very simple, very, very simple to make.
Yeah, really tasty, nice hot meal as well. And I'm going to leave that to cook for a couple of minutes now. Right. Okay, so that's cooking away nicely, and after about 12 to 15 minutes for your rice, you're going to remove it from the heat and just sit it down. And then what you do here is you take a tea towel or a towel, one or two, and you're just going to cover your rice over, just nice and tightly, so that none of the heat or the steam in the rice gets out. Now, you can leave that as long as you like. I tend to leave it for about half an hour. So if you start your rice first and then leave it to steam, because what that's going to do is it's going to finish cooking, and the rice is going to be more like a steamed rice rather than a cooked rice, so it will separate the grains and it will come out really yummy. That's a technique they tend to use.
A little tip for the audience.
Just to give you that really nice tender rice rather than mushy or stuck together. And as you can see, our curry, if I give it a quick stir, all the prawns have cooked. They've sort of shrunk down in size, and that's now finished.
Right, thank you, Sister Fatima. Can you give us a quick rundown for the audience at home if they've missed anything?
Okay, so what we did is we took 3 cloves of garlic, a tablespoon piece of ginger, 1 white onion, 1 chilli, into a blender and mix into a paste. 1 tablespoon of butter in the pan, and you add your paste. And then you add your spices, 1 teaspoon of turmeric, 1 teaspoon of ground coriander, 1 teaspoon of ground cumin, freshly ground black pepper, and some sea salt. Add it all in, fry. Once that's fried for about 5 minutes, you want to use half a chopped mango. The riper the mango is, the better. Again, fry for 3 to 4 minutes. Add your, you can add some desiccated coconut, maybe about a tablespoon. Fresh prawns, fry it all together, and then I would say a small cup of coconut milk, and then you just leave that. And for the rice, we used 1 cup of rice washed, and we used half a teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of water, and half a cup of coconut milk.
Right, so how long do we steam the rice for?
Okay, so that's about 10 or 15 minutes under the cover. You can leave it as long as you like, really, but just give it 10-15 minutes just to loosen the grains up.
Okay.
And then we can serve. So, just going to take a spoon of the rice. As you can see, the grains are separating.
Yes,
so,
they are, yeah.
And then a spoon of your curry. And then all I would say is that you add fresh lime and some chopped coriander. That's going to really bring out the flavour of the...
Usually coriander is used as a garnish quite a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, it almost has a sweet flavour to it. So I'm just going to decorate put some coriander on there, and a squeeze of the lime. And you can just leave the lime on the side. And that's your curry.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sister Fatima. That smells amazing. I can't wait to go home and taste that. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Join us next week for a different type of cuisine. If you've got any questions, email me at morningbreak@ahlulbayt.tv. And until next week, Assalamu alaikum.
Well, that looks really yummy, and I love the way that it wasn't actually looking anyway too difficult to make. Did you try that?
Yeah, I did actually, and it was really, really nice. And it, wasn't. I wasn't expecting it to be so nice, but it smelled amazing, and it was really nice. And I'm not as you know, I'm not a fish fan, so I was really hesitant on trying it. And then I tried it, and it was actually really, really nice. So, and the great thing is also, if you don't like fish, you can substitute the prawns with something else, so like chicken or whatever you would like. So, I would definitely recommend it to everybody and yourself to try it.
I will definitely have to, actually. But I think, again, like you said, the great thing about that is that we know that fish has many nutrients in. And on top of that, using up something like rice is something that everyone has, most people have at home. You know, it's part of a staple diet, I guess. And so if you wanted to use up rice, perhaps even left from the day before, that's a great way to do it.
Absolutely. Really, really nice. And I like the fact that she used coconut milk, and, you know, I really like coconut. And so that was really refreshing. And you can, when you taste the curry, you can taste the coconut in it, and it's really, really nice.
Excellent. It also seems like it's quite a quick dish to make, and I think especially during Ramadan, where you don't want to necessarily spend ages cooking food. I mean, some people do, don't they? Some people want to spend their day preparing the meal for the evening. But that looks like quite a quick way to prepare a meal that's not only going to be balanced with nutrients, quick to make, but like you said, it's also going to taste yummy.
Yeah, and I also like the fact that she was encouraging us to try foods from other cultures, because it's just so normal for us to just stick to our own culture and then, you know, not really explore other foods from other cultures. And I think it's great here where we can do that. Obviously, as long as it's halal, why not?
And like she showed, I think we can supplement things as well. Like you said, if people don't like prawns, you can add something else in. So that, yeah, absolutely. And I hope, inshallah, everyone tries that recipe this month.
Well, it's actually now time for a break. Please do join us for part 3, where we'll be seeing what Sister Sidra Zaidi has to say on Ask the Life Coach. Join us in a bit. If I'm going to read this many ayahs or this many surahs or even Sapara, you know, if you could, every day. So I thought that was a really nice tip for people that, you know, might like to, you know, read the Quran regularly every day.
Absolutely. I think that's really useful, and especially like you said in this month, where I don't know about you, but I always find that I might allocate a certain amount of time in my day to read Quran, but I Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to part 2 of today's show. It's now time for our top tips segment. So what have you got for us this week?
Well, today's top tip is that, you know, obviously it's the month of Ramadan. And, you know, we try to read the Quran, the whole Quran in the month of Ramadan. The version, so you can have the Urdu translation, you've got the English, you've got, you know, different text styles as well. So, for example, if you're used to a certain text style, so you can always change the type of book that you're reading from. But also I thought it was handy, especially if we're at work. And sometimes you don't, you know, it's difficult for you to carry the Quran in your bag. And then, of course, in front of your work colleagues to take it out, for example, if you work in a non-Muslim organisation, to kind of take it out and at the desk, maybe your lunch hour, because in your lunch hour you're not going to be eating.
True.
You know, so you could use that time to read the Quran, and you could, you know, if you're not comfortable taking the actual Quran with you at work and sitting at your desk, you could log on to QuranFlash.com, onto this website, and you could, you know, read the Quran on your, you know, monitor, so to speak, and no one would really know what you're doing, or, you know, it would just be seen that you're surfing the internet, if you get what I'm saying, and that way you could sort of say yourself. Yeah. So I've come across a website. Actually, it was a viewer that emailed in at morning break and actually suggested this website. It's called QuranFlash.com. I'm sure there are other people that maybe have heard of this website. And basically, it's the Quran virtually on the internet, and you can use it as a book in real life. So, like, you can flip the pages of it as though you were flipping it yourself. You were turning the pages yourself. And it has different texts.